Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing all right. We're just about to get started here. Today, we're going to be talking about how to roll your ACFR forward, and we're going to be following a bunch of steps to make sure that our ACFR is secure, that we have everything backed up and ready to roll forward, and then all of the steps in order to get from point A to point B, getting ready to report the next fiscal cycle. So we will have two people in the chat and the Q&A to help me facilitate this session today. We have Nick Langwa, who's a training specialist here at Gravity, and also Olga, who is an implementation specialist at Gravity. They will be answering your questions in the chat or Q&A. I'm John. I'm a training specialist here at Gravity as well. Some of you may recognize me. So any questions that are posted in the chat or the Q&A, Nick and or Olga will be answering. Towards the end of the session, I will address any questions that remain, but the main focus from me here is I'll be doing the live session. Any questions will be answered by Nick and Olga. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to get started here. Now, what's going to look like a lot of steps to do in rolling your ACFR forward is set up so that you will be able to succeed and have everything work perfectly as soon as you are ready to start your next reporting cycle. You will be receiving a copy of this checklist in a follow-up email after this webinar, but we're going to go through and demonstrate all of the steps that you're going to need to do to be able to roll your ACFR forward. Now, the very first thing that we're going to have to do in rolling your ACFR forward is backing up your report. This is crucial. This will enable us, if anything goes wrong, we can reload your report, which I've never heard happening. But also, it gives you a static version of your last ACFRs to look at. So if you want to print it off again, you're more than welcome to. And I'm just going to show you how to back up your report right now. So to back up your report, here we are in the City of Gravity ACFR. To back up your report, it's really easy. We go to the top level report folder, click on the three dots up here, go to report operations, and then click create backup. We have to assign a workflow, but after we've done this, we can just click on OK, and the backup will immediately start being created. One thing to note about this backing up your ACFR is it can take from 20 to 40 minutes. This is a perfect thing to do at the end of the day before you roll your report forward or when you go for lunch. You want to let it completely back up before doing any of the other steps. But this is all automated now, of course, you will be able to track it in the top right-hand corner in the notification center, and it will tell you how the process of this is going. If there's ever an error with this backup, just try backing it up again. I've once again never heard of an error, but just make sure that this process is complete before continuing on with the rest of the roll forward procedure. The next thing that we are going to be doing is actually creating our next fiscal period inside of Gravity. This is generally what this is used for is to mark the next fiscal year end. If you're running a monthly or quarterly report, this can be the end of that session as well. So in this case, I'll show you how to do this real quick. This is something that we're going to actually do in Gravity settings. So hopping back into Gravity now, in the top right-hand corner, we have this gear icon, the settings button. If we click on that, we're going to have to go to dimensions. Here, we're going to see all of the periods that our report is being used for. Now, for this one, we're going to mark the next fiscal year being 25/12/31. Once we're in this dimensions and in the periods dimension, we're going to click on this blue plus sign button in the bottom right-hand corner, add member. Here, real easy, we just click on this calendar icon, click to our next year, we're in 2025, click to the month, the date we want, and then click save. This will right away add this date to our environment. We're going to see where this date appears later, but this is a super crucial step in order to get our act for being able to roll forward to the next period. For those of you who are watching, we will have this call recorded, but feel free at any point to ask questions, either using the chat or the Q&A function. We have Nick and Olga on the line, experts in gravity, who will be able to answer your questions. After we have done this, what we're going to have to do next is create the next fiscal period inside of the MDFM. So we create this fiscal period to show what the end date of your fiscal period is, but in the MDFM, we're now actually setting what date the numbers our financial information will be inputted to. So what what years are statements being set to? So we want to, if in this case, we're moving from 2024, FY 2024 to FY 2025. And we're going to have to put that forward in the MDFM. So let's go back to Gravity and let's navigate to the MDFM. I'm going to click out of this Dimensions menu. I'm going to click on Data, the blue ribbon of Gravity, and then Multidimensional Financial Model. Once we've arrived at the MDFM, we're going to access Administration, clicking on the chevron here. Then we're going to click on Dimensions. Here, we're going to go to either global periods or periods. More often than not, it's called global periods. And then we're going to click on this pencil icon inside of this dimension. Now, we already have a couple dimensions in here for testing purposes, but to add a new fiscal period, we're going to click on this Add Row button, symbolized by this plus sign in the top right-hand corner of this menu. Here, we're going to see a row get added to this menu, and we're going to add 2028 for this in this case. So we'll do 2028. We want to add the name, but what's more important is that your code aligns with exactly with previous years inside of this menu here. So I'm just since we only see here that it's the four numbers, so 2022, 2023, and everything's staying like this. There's no words after it. We're going to just put 2028. Then we're going to click Save. Now you're going to see what's happened is that 2028 is now saved at the very bottom. This is an important step to remember. If at implementation, they've told you that your most recent year goes to the very top, you will have to click and drag this 2028 all the way up here to the top. If it's the case that it's inverted and the most recent date just goes to the bottom, you can leave it like that. But however these rows are set up, that's the order you want to preserve inside of the MDFM. I hope this has been helpful so far. Once again, if there's any questions, feel free to ask Nick or Olga. So after we've created the new fiscal period inside of the MDFM, aka the year that we're going to be moving to, we're going to want to lock the prior year. This is done in this last menu that I've done right now. Why do we do this? We want to make sure that all of our financials in the last year are unable to be edited. This means that you won't be able to make adjustments or change any of the information inside of the MDFM for the prior year. If, of course, there's a correction that needs to be made, you'll have to unlock the prior period and then do so. But I'll show you how to lock the prior period right now. So we see here that there's actually a couple prior periods that need to get locked, and we're going to be rolling to 2025. So to lock a prior period, all you do is click here on the Edit button on whichever year is your prior period. Click on this little checkbox underneath the Locked column. When this is checked off, we click on the Save icon, and then you'll see here that this has been locked. Now there will be no changes that will be possible to be made to 2024. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that one more time for 2023. For the row you want, click on the pencil icon, click on the little checkmark box, and then click on the Save icon. And now that period is locked and unable to be edited. Once we've accomplished that, we're going to be able to get onto our next step, which is going to be, sorry, I clicked on the wrong menu there, creating any new statement lines or funds if you folks need. This is something that I won't be demonstrating right now, but if it's the case that you have to reclassify a fund, your auditors have requested a new line on your statement, this is when you're going to go into dimensions inside of the MDFM and add those new lines or new funds. If there's any questions on these, we will be distributing out some instructional information on exactly how to create a new line or fund inside of your MDFM. But for right now, the next step that we would do is upload our trial balance. Now, why are we uploading our trial balance, our ACFR data file? Essentially, what we're doing is we're making sure that your tables populate right away after we roll forward the report. Because if we roll forward the report without uploading the trial balance, the tables are going to be empty because there won't be any 2025 data. So we're going to need to make sure there's 2025 data, or else the tables will be empty, which scares some people. This is all accomplished through data integration services. Something else I won't be demonstrating today since we're looking here at the roll forward. But this is what I would say is we want to upload this trial balance right now to make sure that when we roll forward, we're able to check first off that everything did work correctly. And secondly, that you're not going to be thinking everything's broken when actually rolled forward. After you've uploaded your trial balance, which of course you can do multiple times after you've rolled forward your report, or just even if you just have a couple numbers in your trial balance, if it's not finalized, this is just to make sure that some of your tables populate with some numbers. The next thing we're going to be doing is rolling the MDFM forward. What this means is we're going to be making sure that, so I just see a question here from Susan. Yes, the trial balance should be from your fiscal year that you're going to be rolling to. Yes. So even if it's just a couple lines of numbers from, let's say, FY 2025, that's the best. That is the information you're going to want to display, because it's those FY 25 data that will be showing up on your table. Hope that's helpful. The next thing we're going to do is start actually rolling the report forward. We've done a lot of little steps here. We've backed up the report. We've created a fiscal period. We've done so in the MDFM as well. We've locked the prior periods. And then if we wanted to create any new line, new statement lines or funds, we've done that. And then we've also uploaded our trial balance. Now we're going to roll the MDFM forward. What that means is we're going to be copying the rules, the formulas, and even the adjustments, if you want, from your prior year to your current year. So let's demonstrate how that's done here. So we are inside of the MDFM still. We're going to open up this menu again. This is still in the administration panel. We haven't left yet. And you will see a roll forward icon here. Clicking on that. The first thing we're going to want to do when rolling forward our MDFM is selecting which report we're going to roll forward. In this case, it's an ACFR, but it's important to know that if you were to have a budget book or a PAFR, you would want to select that when you want to roll those reports forward. So I'm going to click here on the ACFR labels to roll forward. Now we click validate after we've selected the ACFR folder. This menu we can skip. This is something that is still being rectified. But once we click next, what we have to do here is select the prior fiscal period. So in this case, we're going to pretend it's 2024. And we're going to be rolling 2024 numbers. We're going to be applying 2024 rules to 2025. So we select our prior year and select the year that we're rolling to. So here to 2025. Now here we have a couple other options. We can lock the from period. 2024 has already been locked. So if you've forgotten at this point to lock the period, you can click this button to lock 2024. Another thing we can do is roll over the adjustments, meaning that if you have a bunch of adjustments that you make each and every year, all of these adjustments will be rolled over, left unposted with different numbers and blank, of course, but you'll be able to have these adjustments ready to be inputted right away. Lastly, if you have any formulas that are linked specifically to the prior year and that need to be rolled forward to the next year, so we see here it's 2023, you can go and select the 2024 as the next year because it's rolling forward to the next year. Afterwards, we'd click execute. This will apply all of the rules to 2025. And if we had selected rollover adjustments, it would apply those new adjustments as well. And any formulas that are bound to a certain year would also be rolled forward to the next year. After we've done that, we're going to then change any pivot views if needed. Oops. So, oh yes, one thing I completely forgot about. And this is something absolutely crucial that we'll have to do inside of the MDFM. One thing that's important to note about the formulas, and this is something that is being worked on by the developers to fix. For those of you who use the MDFM, you're going to know that there are a couple different ways of linking accounts to statement lines. The first way that you folks will be working in is the local rules. But there's something else, the formulas, which do various mathematical calculations and link them to lines in the statement. These formulas are copied over, as we've already said, are copied over to the next fiscal period. Now, the ones I'm talking about in particular are fund balances beginning of year and fund balances end of year. These have to be dragged up to the top of this formula bar, and I can show you how to do that real quick. And this is just an important thing. All we have to do is click and drag them up to the top of this the formulas panel rather. This is a necessary step to do, or else the fund balances won't calculate correctly. As I said, there is going to be a fix for this incoming, but right now, if you roll forward, you're going to have to click and drag these fund balances beginning and end of year to the top of the formulas panel inside of the mapping page. After we've accomplished that, we can now change any pivot views if need be. The one thing you should do isn't necessary, but will actually help you a lot, is moving the fiscal period up 1 year inside of your pivot views. And let me show you what I mean by that. So inside of the MDFM, we're just going to go to governmental funds, and we're going to open up the balance sheet here. What this will show is your prior year information. The way that the pivots work is they are locked to a certain period, and we have to go in and change this if you want to utilize these pivots to validate your data. So to do this, we're going to right-click anywhere on the table and then click Show Field Chooser. When we're in the Field Chooser, we're going to find this periods panel inside of the filter fields. Clicking on the upside down triangle, we're going to want to move it from 24, so uncheck 24 to 25. Click OK. Now, I haven't mapped over the information yet, so it's going to be blank for right now. But we're going to want to, after we've done that, we've selected that field, click on right-click, then click on View, then click Save. This will mean that your current pivot view will now actually display the current year as opposed to prior year information. You're going to want to do this for every single table that you are using. So we've done it now for the balance sheet. We would have to repeat this for the budget to actual comparison, for the statement of revenues and expenditures, for budget and actuals reconciliation. For every single statement, we're going to have to repeat this process if we want to utilize this pivot to show the current year. After updating our pivot views, we can actually start to roll forward the report now. To do this, we're actually going to navigate back to our ACFR. So the easiest way to do this is in the top left-hand corner, we'll see a little chevron that says Expand. Clicking on that, we're going to see City of Gravity ACFR. Click on the top level report folders, 3 dots. In report operations, we've already seen this, but we haven't talked about it yet. We have roll forward at the very top of this menu. We click on roll forward here. We're now going to be rolling our report from 2024 to 2025. Now, this period that we have here is the second step that we had made inside of our during this webinar. So if I click on this period, you're going to see the 2024 12/31, and dimension I added, the 2025 1231, we're going to select that. Once we've done this, we can click Next. One step to note, though, is this box is checked by default, reset workflow to first step. What this means is that all of the workflow steps that have been set, so if you're utilizing the workflow functionality in Gravity, saying that checking off that certain documents are completed, this is the best way to push everything back to the first step. So if you want everything to go from done to do, for instance, leave this on. But if you are using it for different functionality, you want to keep stuff at a certain point in the workflow, feel free to check it off, but it is on by default. After we've selected the new fiscal year end, we're going to click Next. If you have Eclipse template imports, you will have to push the Eclipse from 2024 to 2025, for instance. But here, we're actually utilizing the MDFM hypercubes. So here, we're going to select our next fiscal year. So this is 2024. We're going to roll to 2025. 2023, we're going to roll to 2024. Variance, we're going to just keep at 2023 here. We need to select what the next fiscal period for is in each one of these categories. So what effectively this is doing is changing the 2024 numbers. So it's saying anything that's in 2024 is now going to display 2025 numbers. And for your MD&A, which will contain 2023 numbers for 2024's FY, that is now being moved to 2024. So this is changing which fiscal years are displayed on the tables. After we've done that, we would click Next. If you're utilizing any MDFM dataset imports, you're going to have to repeat the same steps. Generally for an ACFR, you won't though. Then we click Next. And after we've completed all of these steps, we can click Finish here to roll the report forward. Now, having rolled the report forward, we have a couple other steps that we're going to want to accomplish. So at this point, we've backed up our report. We've made sure everything's prepared to roll forward. Now we've rolled forward not only the MDFM, but also the report. Now we're going to start getting our report ready to begin the next reporting cycle. The very first thing we're going to have to do is update the periods template. Most of you will know what the periods template is, but I'll show you where it's located and sort of explain what it does, just so it's perfectly clear what you folks have to do after you've rolled your report forward. So I'm going to navigate back to Gravity real quick. And your periods report, it's either called periods template or periods report, will be located inside the administration folder in the bottom of the report tree. So let's open up administration here. And we see here that we have a periods report. I'm going to double click on this to open it up. This periods report will show, will set up all of the fiscal year variables in your narrative. And in some cases, we'll also edit the dates inside of your automated tables. We see here somebody's already gone forward and updated this to 2025. But in short, what you have to do for this table is enter in your correct year that you want to roll to. So I'll just show you here, if it were 2024, all of the variables will be set to 24. And if we go to 25, enter this in, it's updated now, as we see here in columns D and E. After we've updated the current fiscal year, this is generally done in the cell K4. We want to click on the 3 lines by periods report up here, and then click Submit. You'll see something that'll come up here in the top right-hand corner that will say the data submitted successfully. This needs to happen for the data to be pushed through correctly. Once we've accomplished this, we're going to have to actually, if you folks are utilizing Gravity for your cash flow, after this step, we need to start doing some stuff inside of the cash flow, namely refreshing the cash flow data set. So making sure that the proprietary funds are flowing into the cash flow, and then reapplying the rules. And let me show you how this is done. It's something you are going to have to do immediately after submitting the periods template. So I'm going to hop in here. Oops, stay logged in. So the cash flow data set is inside of the MDFM. We click on Data, MDFM, go to Administration, and then we have to go to Data Set. So we've already been in Dimensions, we've already been in Roll Forward. We're going to want to click here on Data Sets. In the Data Sets, we're going to open up the ACFR folder, and then you're going to see Cash Flow. There is a refresh button right here that you see. If we click on this, oh, there's an error there. That's interesting. We'll have to get that fixed up. But this cash flow, once we click this refresh button, we'll push in the new data to the cash flow cubes. Having clicked that refresh button, we're going to now want to open up the hypercubes, not in administration, but here rather in the second menu, and then navigate to the cash flow and cash flow reconciliation hypercubes. So after we've refreshed the data set, we right-click on cash flow cube, click roll up, right-click on cash flow reconciliation cube, and then click roll up. After we've accomplished this, we can actually get back to our report and refresh the MDFM imports. So essentially what we've done with these couple steps in refreshing the cash flow data set and rolling up the cash flow cubes is making sure that all the rules have applied correctly to the cash flow. And now we're able to start reviewing our report, getting ready to prepare for the next year's reporting cycle. So we've done quite a bit so far. Once again, if there's any questions, feel free to ask Nick or Olga inside the chat or the Q&A. They're experts. They'll be able to help you out. And we will pause for some questions at the end of our webinar today. So after rolling up the cash flow cubes, we're going to want to go to our report and refresh the MDFM imports. So in this case, if we were to go into the ACFR right now and look at the tables, it's still going to display prior year information. This is something that we actually have to manually update the tables. This is just to make sure that when we back up the report or if we've uploaded different data that we have the correct data at any point by refreshing the MDFM imports. So I'm going to navigate back to our City of Gravity ACFR. What we'll do here is click on the three dots in the top level report folder, then click on Data, refresh MDFM imports. This is the best way to get all of your tables to bring in the newest data from the MDFM and slot it into your automated tables. This can take up to 5 minutes depending on how many schedules or financial statements you have as coming out of the MDFM. So you can track it up here in the notification center. Of course, here we only have a couple MDFM imports, but generally for a normal ACFR, it'll take up to 5 minutes. Julie, I see you have a question. I don't have a cash flow data set. I have a main data set, and under that is TV and budget. So Nick's got that. Thanks, Nick. Yeah, if you're not managing the cash flow through through Gravity, you can just skip that. No problem. It's not every single person will be utilizing that functionality of Gravity. Now, this next step, refreshing variables, is one of my favorite things to do in Gravity. Main reason is because it's super easy, but it is absolutely crucial to remember doing this. Or else you're going to get to your MD&A, for instance, and it's going to be a bunch of last year's data. So the way I like to, and this is something, there's a couple other reasons why you're going to want to remember this, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a way to remember this. I'm sure most of you folks, and if you can, let me know in the chat if anybody here has ever been to the office supply stores Staples. I'm assuming most people have been to the office supply store Staples. And you might remember in the early aughts, the early 2000s, there were these easy buttons you can buy. You click on the button, it would say that was easy. Now, what we're doing here is what I think the easiest thing to do in Gravity, and it is really one of the most important. So we click here on Data, refresh variables. That was easy. I'll even do it again just for good measure. Click on Data, refresh variables. That was easy. This is going to make sure that all of the current, all the automated numbers, so for instance, in your MD&A sections, in other notes, that everything will be flowing in correctly. So when you start reviewing your ACFR and start looking into, seeing whether the notes need to change, see how things are looking up inside the report proper, that you're actually looking at current year information. So it's super crucial. If you ever think that any of the numbers yet highlighted in yellow are incorrect, your first thing to do, click on Data, Refresh Variables. That was easy. Now, we've done a lot of little steps, and as you see, it's pretty quick to get all these little things done. We just need to make sure we do them in this order, and that we have everything accomplished here. Now, our second last step is changing the design template. So everything we've done up to this point has been actually working with the financials. So backing up the reports, making sure our last year, some ACFRs in place. We've made sure we have everything correct for the fiscal periods. We've copied the rules. We've now updated the tables, and we've made sure that everything else is refreshed. What we're doing now is just making sure that on the ACFR, we have the correct year print inside the covers, inside the headers and footers, and on the back covers, for instance. And I'll show you how to do this. If you're running a quarterly or monthly statement, you might have to do this more frequently. But for most people, you're just going to have to do this once a year. So it's important to, and this is something you have to do every single year. So I'm going to open up Gravity again. You're going to see there's a gear icon up here. And here we're going to click on Templates. Now here we only have the one ACFR template, which if you folks only have an ACFR with Gravity will, but make sure you select the correct template, click on that, and then we're going to open up text variables. We see that it's already been updated to 2025, but all we have to do is click on that pencil icon, enter in our new value, type in it. I'm going to change it back for posterity's sake. Go back to 2025, click Save. Now that's all we have to do to make sure that our cover, headers, and footers all print the correct year out. But it looks like someone's messed up our financial year-end day. It's December 31st. I'm going to click Save here. And there we go. We've got all of our headers and footers printing off correctly. This will mean that when you go to generate your report and you print it off for review, everything will be will have the correct year on it, so it's clear to the reader that we're actually dealing with fiscal year 2025. So that's basically everything that we at Gravity can help you with. The one thing that you're going to have to do, though, is begin your next reporting cycle. That part is we've provided you the tools. Now you're ready to actually get in, map the accounts, get the statements generated, make sure everything's ready, and get everything published out, get the report published. But that's pretty much it for what we have to do for roll forward. So just sort of to summarize here, we're going to want to start with this backing up. This is a super crucial step for the security of your report, but also to know that you have your last year's ACFR backed up, and it has an immutable copy of which. Create our next fiscal period in the dimensions, then go create our next fiscal period in the MDFM, lock the prior periods, and then at this point, if we have any new lines or funds, this is when we should start creating them. After we've done that, we can upload the trial balance. Once we've accomplished those 6 steps, we can now roll the MDFM forward, copying the rules from our prior year to our current year. Then we can update our pivot views, and then we're going to roll the report forward. After accomplishing those 3 steps, we can now get into actually managing the data, so updating the periods template, making sure the cash flow is up to date by refreshing the cash flow data set and rolling up the cash flow hypercubes. Then we refresh the MDFM imports and refresh the variables. Then the last thing to do to prepare for the next year is update the design template, and then the rest is in your ballpark. So I hope you folks found this webinar useful. We will be taking questions for a bit. We wanted to make sure that this webinar doesn't go on for too long. We will be fielding your questions, and I will start answering any questions we have right away. But one thing I would love for you to do is we have a QR code here on the next slide But Nick will also be posting the survey in the chat. We would love to know how you found this webinar, any other topics that you wish to have talked about in Gravity. We're really hoping that these webinars will be super useful for you folks rolling forward to the next fiscal year, or other things in Gravity such as variables, which our first webinar was on last week. We will be having other webinars in December. We're hoping to have 2 to 3 webinars each month. The next webinar will be on object formatting, so making sure your reports have the correct images, the table of contents laid out, and that your charts are looking great. So I'm going to go back and now answer any questions you can ask in the chat or the Q&A, but I'm going to get to Cindy Turner's question right now. The initial TB is the only thing required for the full roll forward. Yes, Cindy. I would say that this is mostly just to make sure that first off, information is flowing correctly. So when you roll forward and refresh the MDFM, you'll and get everything like refresh the MDFM imports, that correct numbers will be showing. But it's also important because if you don't upload your trial balance, you can still roll forward, but your tables are then going to be blank. And that's usually worries people a fair amount if the tables are suddenly blank. As you saw here, I should have added 2025 information. So having not done that, suddenly the tables are blank. To generate our reports, we've always required to provide the TB budget files and our GAAP TB adjustments. Yeah, I mean, you can keep using that workflow 100%. I would just say having sort of an initial trial balance to roll forward to the next fiscal year is just a good practice in Gravity. It just makes sure that you'll be able to make sure that things are working right away. I hope that's helpful. Then we have a question from Susan. After performing data integration with the new files, we were asked to update, refresh imports, roll up on each pivot tables of each hypercube. Do we still need to do that? So to update, so I personally, you wouldn't necessarily need to do that after every single data integration. A lot of that stuff is done automatically, but if implementation has said that, okay, that Olga's saying we now have one button for that. Yeah, there is you can do it a bit quicker. If implementation, let's say you have a very specialized setup, and implementation is said to do something a particular way, sure. But in general, you're only going to have to roll up and refresh stuff only if you want to see it inside of the report right away. And the roll up is done automatically. Yes, 100% from Olga there. So yes, thanks, Nick. Yeah, so please feel free to fill out that Microsoft Forms survey. All of your comments are super helpful. We want to know whether the webinar was useful for you, any other topics you would want. And we do have an object formatting webinar coming up on December 11th. And so Olga's saying refresh all imports we could do from the parent folder. Yes, I'm glad that's helpful, Susan, rather. Now the Q&A, we see that there's one question here from Jennifer Lowe, and we do have answers. Awesome. Thank you so much for getting to that, Nick. Do you folks have any other questions here about rolling your ACFR forward? Feel free. We have a little bit more time. I want to make sure that you folks feel confident in rolling your ACFR forward before we sign off for today. We can either you'll ask in the chat or in the Q&A. If you have no other questions, please feel free to, we would love to hear your comments on the webinar. How was it run? Whether topics we'd want, so feel free to fill out the webinar survey. We'd love to hear your comments and your feedback. If there's no other questions from you folks, I hope you folks have a great rest of your day and continued success using Gravity. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Bye.